Hi everyone, welcome to episode 7 of my chronic migraine life. I'm Donna. Today I want to talk about the history of my migraines, namely how it went from 0 to 100 and trying to reflect on the history and the progress of how that all happened. To be honest, I wasn't really sure, so I had to give it some thought. I've taken some notes, so if you see me looking to the side, that's what I'm looking at. And really look through my photo albums. I'm very visual thinker, and so I remember how I felt based on what I was doing. And so to get to the attack that I really want to talk about, the first migraine I had that I couldn't break, I had to look back because I remember I was on vacation and I couldn't remember really what year. It was a little fuzzy, so I've done a little research on my own from my own archives today, and so now that's what we're going to talk about today. I've been putting this particular conversation off for some time. I don't think that I want to dig deep and access those feelings. Thinking about that particular event in my life was the beginning of the end for about 10 years of my health, and I don't know what I feel about it. I feel like I can think about it a lot. I know a lot about the specifics, but I'm not letting myself access the full emotions of that story. I guess it's just maybe too painful to think about. I read once somewhere that it says when you can talk about what you've gone through or your pain without crying, that you've healed from it. So if you've seen any of my previous videos, maybe you can tell from the crying that that's partially true. I thought I was all the way healed, but the more that I do these videos, the more cathartic I think it is for me, but also really illuminates how deep the trauma of my chronic illness has been to both me emotionally and the events that have taken place in my life since. We'll talk more about that at another time, but I guess the best place to start is at the beginning. So my earliest migraine, I'm trying to remember. I don't really know when the earliest migraine I had. I'm 37. I graduated from college in 2003. And I remember having maybe 1 or 2 migraines then. Now that I'm reflecting back, I don't even know if I would consider them a migraine. I mean, I guess they were, but it was really more of a just very bad headache, considering what was to come in the future. And in college, of course, I was doing a lot of drinking, poor sleeping habits, eating like crap, and I guess my head was okay with it. These are things that would have to change going forward, but I didn't know that at the time. As soon as I graduated college, I went right to grad school. From grad school, I have several memories of migraines. I was very busy. I was working. I was going to school. My schedule was all over the place. I was able to work out a lot then and didn't seem to bother my head. 2007 is a very fond year for me because I did a lot of traveling, probably the most traveling I've ever done in one consecutive year. I was all over the place. I went to St. Martin, I went to Vegas, I went to Chicago, I went to Chicago. I'm probably forgetting other places, but I was gone every other month. I went to California, and so I don't remember feeling sick at all that time. 2008, I did some more traveling, and I felt pretty much okay that I can remember. If I had a migraine, it might have been something that kept me down for a couple of hours, but I doubt it. Probably not. 2009 is when I thought that I had this particular attack I want to talk about today, but turns out that wasn't it. Halloween 2009 and a couple of other days of October that month, because I know because of the occasions that happened that year, I was down for the count. Halloween stands out because my god sister was 2 years old and she had a brand new newborn sister at that time. And they lived out in Long Island, and I went out to Long Island to go trick-or-treating with them. I still went trick-or-treating, iced coffee in one hand, camera in the other. That's my usual stance. But I was not feeling well. I was pushing myself through the pain, which is something you can only do for a certain amount of time. We went trick-or-treating. Because they were so small, it didn't last very long, which was probably good for me. 2009, I was taking a photography class at NYU, so I used a lot of those pictures for my class that week. That's why I remember. I remember coming home. I wasn't driving. My mother was with me, and being down on the couch for the rest of the evening. That fall, I have a lot of memories of wanting to cook. It's probably when I started to get my appreciation and my love for cooking. I had gotten Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking that season, and I remember wanting to make onion soup, and I just couldn't, and these flashes, but that Halloween stands out. Early 2010, nothing really comes to mind. It's, ironically, the following Halloween. It's Halloween 2010 is the day that I want to talk about. I don't really know what triggered it or how or why that came to be. I was with my very dear cousin. We were going on a girls' weekend, Friday to Sunday night, Philadelphia. We took the train from New York City. Super excited, had a lot of things planned. That first day we got there, we were staying in Rittenhouse Square at the Sofitel, which was a great hotel. And we went there specifically to see a King Tut exhibit at the Franklin Institute. I had been to Philadelphia solo to visit another cousin. Yeah, I have a lot of them. By myself, and wanted to go back with this particular cousin the following year. I'm going to pause myself for a second, and I'm just remembering something. That November 2009, that first time I went to Philadelphia to visit my cousin, my Irish cousin, if that'll help us here, I stayed with her. I remember that I had just seen a neurologist for the very first time a couple of weeks before, and it was the first medication I started taking. I want to say that it was gabapentin, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to dig through my medical records. I know it was a 100 milligram pill. It was a tiny little white capsule. And it was the first preventative medication I was taking. So now that makes me realize that I was taking medication a whole year before I got to this point. So I remember that weekend in Philadelphia. I don't know what's with Philadelphia and my migraines. I went to stay with my cousin. She was sick. I went out during the day by myself, and I was fine. I didn't sleep great at her apartment the 2 nights that I spent with her, and so that might have contributed to my migraine. But I remember taking the preventative medication and still having a migraine. But at that time, I didn't really worry about it too much. I don't think I was even aware that you could have a migraine that you couldn't break. I had some pain medication with me. I'm sure that I took it if that bothered me that weekend. I don't remember exactly. But to set the scene, so I was already progressing in my migraine journey. My headaches were getting worse, but not nearly enough for me to know that I would get to the point that I ended up ultimately becoming so sick and chronically ill from them. But enough that I sought our neurologist finally to at least address the issue. So now that was Halloween, November, really, 2009. Now I want to talk about Halloween 2010 again. So picking up from where I left off. My Italian cousin, as we'll call her, and I went to Philadelphia. We went to the Franklin Institute. We checked into our hotel. We had a great day. I remember that first day, the afternoon of the first day, I started to have pain. I know I called a family friend, a very close family friend of mine. Her birthday is Halloween. So I remember calling and complaining, or she asked how I was or something, and thinking that I wasn't feeling quite right. The pain was starting to come. And I got off the phone with her, and I said to the cousin that I was with, I don't really feel that great. I had a lot of pain and pressure in here and stuff. And she said, maybe you're getting a sinus infection. When I get a sinus infection, I take naproxen, which is like a strong Motrin kind of a thing, and I feel better. So I took it. And off we went on our merry way. During the day, I don't remember feeling so sick. But by nighttime, that first night, I was in dire straits. With the Italian cousin, we were going to meet my Irish cousin who still lived in Philadelphia and her partner at that time. And the restaurant we were having dinner at was Max Brenner, the chocolate man. It's a great restaurant. They're all over the place nowadays if you want to look into it. It was only like 2 blocks from our hotel. So we were walking. And I remember having to stop along the way just because I couldn't take the pressure in my head. And I didn't know what to do about it, but I was powering through. I barely ate at dinner. I tried to keep up with conversation. Of course, I took a million photos because that's my thing. And I was surprised today when I looked back at those photos that I can't see the pain in my face. I thought that I would see, I don't know what I thought I would see, but I thought I would see it. I would recognize it. Maybe no one else would, but I would see what I felt. And I did. There was no trace of that. We ate dinner. I went back to the hotel fairly early just because I wanted to rest. It might have subsided a little bit because when I looked at the next day's activities, I actually wasn't sure originally if we had gone for 2 nights or just 1, but we were for 2. So I guess that second day we were flooded. We went all over the real historic part of Central Philly. I mean, Thomas Jefferson's house, the Liberty Bell, Benjamin Franklin, Franklin Fountain, love Franklin Fountain, and a million other things. That night, apparently, we ended at Bobby's Burger Palace, which at the time was only located in Philadelphia. Now Bobby Flay has taken his burgers pretty much everywhere. They're all in major cities. Another good thing you should check out. And I don't have any memory of having pain that day. If I did, it was minor. However, the next day, woke up, I went to Beaumont's, I think that's how you say it. It's known for their crepes. It's a French restaurant. And I remember the meal there. It's delicious. And walking the few blocks to Sarcone's Deli. It's a famous hoagie place in Philly. And I remember by the time we got there, there's no seating. It's sort of you take your sandwich to go. But there were like 2 chairs outside. I was getting a hoagie to go because we're getting ready to get on the train to come home. And I remember feeling really awful then. I don't know if I was hiding it from the cousin I was with so much, or maybe just not communicating it properly, but I knew it was the beginning of something bad. We sat outside in those 2 seats that were there for a few minutes while she ate her sandwich. And I remember now just thinking, like, we were going to take a cab back to the hotel, pack our crap, and go to the train station. And just thinking it wasn't working. I took pain pills that day, I know for a fact. And just thinking, God, just dread. It's that foreshadowing feeling of like, it's not getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. But I don't know. I still don't really know how to put it into words. It's a feeling I would come to get used to, or at least recognize more easily. But why was I feeling like this? And why wasn't the medication working? We get to the hotel, we get our stuff, we get to the Philadelphia train station, and I start to really feel sick there. Sick to the point where it's starting to make me nervous. Now I'm panicking. Now I'm communicating to the cousin that I'm with. I don't feel good. Something is wrong. My head is really killing me. My head is really killing me. My head is really killing me. And she's like, okay, just stay calm, whatever. Okay, whatever. We get on the train to come home, and it's crowded. We're not sitting exactly side by side. I'm on the aisle. I think there was 1 or 2 people to my left. She is on the other side of the aisle on an aisle side seat, and there's people behind her. But we're not in the same row. She's like maybe 1 or 2 rows ahead of me. I put on my iPod to try to focus on something else. The train ride from Penn Station in New York City and to Union Station, vice versa. It's like an hour and a half ride. It's really quick. It's a fun, easy way to get to travel. I love the Amtrak. And I just closed my eyes. I remember opening every once in a while, and she was looking at me, saying, "There's nothing to say." For whatever reason, I kept playing the same song over and over again on my train ride home. I don't know if it was just easy to concentrate. I had it really loud and just trying to focus myself on something else. And it was Rihanna's song, Only Girl in the World. And I was just focusing on her words, and it felt like the longest ride home. By the time I got off that train, I was just probably should have gone to the hospital. Didn't. Luckily enough, our parents were picking us up in the city. I live in Brooklyn, and she was coming back to my house. So it's at least an hour ride from Penn Station. I remember barely being able to climb up the stairs from the train station to get outside. And like my bag just felt heavy. My whole body felt heavy. I was in so much pain. I was doing everything I could not to go hysterical crying. You know, when you're just trying to power through something because you have to get through it, you can't collapse and deal. You just have to keep going. It was kind of like that. I couldn't believe how much pain I was in. I remember getting into my mother's car and I was like, oh, how did you have a good time? And I just couldn't. I closed my eyes. I put my head back and just stayed like this till we got home. My cousin was doing a lot of the talking. I don't think I even said anything. I said I don't feel good, and I was like, okay, whatever. We got to my house. My cousin and her parents were here. They stayed a little while. It was loud. I went up the stairs in my house to use the bathroom. I locked the door. I don't even know if I went to the bathroom before. I just went upstairs to escape. I remember staring at my face in the mirror. I put the cold water on high so that the people downstairs wouldn't hear me sobbing. And I just cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. It was a release. It was also a reaction to the pain and the scared feeling that I had. I had a doctor I couldn't reach. It was a Sunday night. And I didn't know what else to do. I took the pills already that I was allowed to take. I didn't have an acute pain plan at that time. I didn't know there was even such a thing. I didn't know what to do, but I felt like I was dying. I kept hearing Rihanna's song in my head. I feel like the only girl in the world. And that's what I felt like. I felt like the only girl in the world. It was a terrifying, isolating feeling, and I didn't know what to do. I had no tricks in my bag back then. I didn't have a plan because I didn't know this could be a thing. I didn't know I could get a migraine that I couldn't break. And I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know who to tell. Certainly no one in my life at that time would have understood because they didn't know it was a choice either. I tried to, after a few minutes, I threw some cold water on my face trying to hide the signs that my face was red, my eyes were puffy, but I couldn't even hide the pain I was in anymore. It was past the point of that. I came down the stairs, and I guess it was obvious that I'd been crying, and I just said I didn't feel good and whatever. My family members left. My extended family members left. I sat on the couch. I just cried. And my mom said, oh my God, what are we going to do? We'll just go to the neurologist tomorrow. I was probably supposed to go to work. I didn't, obviously. And I don't know if I slept on and off all that night. I just remember crying all night long from the pain. It was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I just couldn't take it. It was taking my breath away. The doctor's office is about a half hour from my house. I feel like he wasn't open right away early in the morning. I feel like we didn't get to see him. My mother didn't get to speak to him till maybe like 11 or 12. And then we finally went in, and I got there, and he took my blood pressure, allegedly was checking for signs of a stroke, which apparently is a thing. I didn't know any of this then, but head pain that you can't break for more than 24 hours puts you at risk for a stroke. So if you ever feel something that feels unnatural to you, even as a migraine patient, if you feel a pain you've never felt before for an extended period of time, you need help. You need help right away. And it's very important that you know that. I didn't know that then, and I guess I'm just a combination of luck and stupidity. But by the time I got to the doctor's office, he had prescribed pain patches for me. Now, this is 2010. I have not looked up my condition on the internet. I don't know why. I feel like that should have been a thing, but it feels like a really long time ago, and it's just not what I did. I didn't research things the way I research them now, which is very strange because I'm a research person at heart. I researched my trip certainly very well and had a planned itinerary. It was beautiful. But I didn't research my head. Well, it's very strange why. I guess because I didn't know my head was going to get so bad. And so we left my house. Of course, the pharmacy that I was using at the time wasn't a chain pharmacy, and they didn't have the pain patches that I was supposed to be taking. So I got home. I laid back on the couch. I was hysterical, crying, in pain. My mother was like contacting the pharmacy, the local neighborhood pharmacy, to see, and I don't even know what the hell they did. They contacted some other pharmacy, and they got the pain patches and delivered to my house. This is hours later. So now we're talking like 4:30. My mother worked nights at the time and was getting ready to go to work at 5 o'clock. And I remember getting the pain patch for the first time. My dog, who was still alive at the time, was laying by me because he knew I was in pain and trying to comfort me. My mother put the pain patch on my arm. I was supposed to wear it, I want to say, for like 2 days or something. I don't even know. I want to say 3 even, but that seems strange to me. I didn't know what kind of drug it was. I just needed the pain to stop. So let's say this is 4:30. I am been slept. I am in agony, beyond agony. Very hard to explain the kind of pain I'm in. I wish there were better words that I could use, but not the case. So I slapped the pain patch on my arm. I'm laying down on the couch. My house is dark, so there's no lights on. My dog is laying beside me, and she leaves to work. My father takes her to work, whatever. So I'm home alone. Fall asleep finally. I'm asleep not even an hour. I want to say a half hour. And I shot up, sit up straight, and I have to vomit. I barely got a bag. I was vomiting and vomiting and vomiting. Hours. I call my mother. Of course, can't reach the doctor at this point. And I pull the fucking pain patch off because I'm convinced that's what it is. Still in complete agony, keep in mind. But I pull the patch off. Vomiting, vomiting, vomiting. The next day, I call the doctor. He's like, yeah, don't put the patch back on. It's probably what it is. I don't know how I got the pain in my head to stop. Now that I come to think of it, it never occurred to me until just now because I was always so focused on that train ride from Philly, knowing that was when I realized I was in trouble and that I didn't know how to help myself and that there was nobody around me that could help me, and that was a terrifying feeling. And that was the first migraine attack I had that I couldn't break. I probably went back to the doctor at that point, and he gave me some other pill, something awful, and maybe it just went away on its own, and I was lucky. I have been hospitalized for migraine, but it wasn't at that time. It should have been, but it wasn't. And I was out of work 10 days. 10 days because of the patch. I went back to work, so that was a Monday. The following, Wednesday. You're looking at 9 days since I was on that patch. I stopped throwing up, of course, but I was out of it. I was high. I felt like I had to hold the walls when I walked. I didn't, but very unsteady. I know that because when I went back to work that Wednesday night, I went to meet Adam Richman with some of my coworkers at a Barnes & Noble, formerly the host of Man vs. Food on the Travel Channel, and get his book autographed and meet him. And I remember feeling very shaky and sick that time. That Friday, I saw Joe McHale at Carnegie Hall with another coworker, and we had high seats, and I thought I would die. I don't even know how I took the bus home from Manhattan. I was sick as a dog. I actually only took it halfway. My mother had to come and meet me. And this is almost 2 weeks post-pain patch. I had those pain patches in my cabinet for a long time before I finally threw them out because I never used them ever again. But now our story has transformed from the worst migraine, well, not the worst, but the first one I couldn't break, to a story of you need to know whatever it is what you're putting on your body. I know it seems like something everybody does nowadays, but I didn't know this at the time, and I was too sick to care. And I trusted my doctor, who turned out to be not a very good doctor anyway, and more on that later. But fast forward a couple of years later, I'm having a conversation with a friend, a very, very dear friend of mine. She's a cancer survivor, went through hell and back. She's always my source of wisdom and strength and perseverance. And she was not feeling well at the time for a host of other different reasons. We were talking about medicine and patches and pain and stuff. And I was telling her the story for whatever reason. And she said, "Do you remember the name of the medication?" I was like, "Yeah, it was some strange name, like fentanyl." And she looked at me like I was out of my mind. And she's like, "Well, you wouldn't have got that name from just anywhere." She's like, "But Donna, are you really sure that was fentanyl?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so. Why? Is that weird?" She said, "They give fentanyl to people that are dying." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, they gave that to me in the hospital when I was sick, when I was having surgeries. It's stronger than morphine, stronger than anything else. It's mostly just to knock you out." Fentanyl. Thought that was strange and crazy. And it bothered me at the time. But now, fast forward, it's 2019. In the last 2 years, how many people have OD'd on fentanyl because they were heroin addicts and they needed another fix? And so now that's the prescription version. Fentanyl, I wrote a blog about this. I mean, I can't fucking believe I was given fentanyl. As it is, opioids of any kind don't help migraines because they're not treating it, they're just knocking you out. And they're dangerous, if anything, besides the fact that they're addicting, is that when you're dealing with chronic headache issues, especially if you haven't been properly diagnosed, you don't know really what you're doing. You're masking a shitload of pain with a drug that's not treating the pain. So whatever's causing it is still going to keep coming. It's just making you sicker. It's putting poison in your body for no reason. It's like taking chemotherapy to try to cure your diabetes or some other kind of illness, but it's not going to work. So if I'm taking chemo for diabetes instead of insulin, I'm still going to die from the diabetes, but now I've taken poison for no reason. If you don't know what fentanyl is, I urge you to Google it. It is incomprehensible that a licensed physician, a neurologist no better, gave this to me without any indication of what I was taking and how serious it was and how sick I would be afterwards. I guess I'm lucky in some way that I reacted so strongly to the fentanyl so fast because it made me pull that fucking patch off. Otherwise, God knows what would have happened to me. I had it on a half hour. Because, of course, it's a patch. It goes right through your skin to your bloodstream. It does not like a pill that you take a long time to digest and process before you get the relief. I never got the relief or addicted to it because I'm so sick. But I'm outraged. And I really feel like I should have called that doctor at some point in the years to come when I knew better, but it was just sickening. So I guess the moral of the story is you always have to, even in your worst times, be on the lookout. You always have to be your best advocate, and I really think that that's what I'm going to do my video about next time is how to be the best patient advocate for yourself, because ultimately that's what I learned, and it's a tool now that I've had to help both myself and my family members, and I think that it's one of the best attributes of myself. Because if you can't advocate for yourself, no one else certainly can. Really, it's really something. It still bothers me to this day. But there was light at the end of my tunnel. I just didn't know how dark it was going to get before I got there. But if you're struggling with any kind of chronic illness that you don't understand or anything about, don't always turn to the internet, but use it to look up the best doctors in your area and find them, because they will be the ones that walk alongside you to the path that leads you to health and happiness. So that's all for today. I hope you stay migraine free, and we'll talk more next time.